Hi everyone. Are you currently in a relationship where there's a good vibe between you? You're very close to them, but there's a little snag. And the snag is that they have someone close to them that you don't like. That you can feel that there is hostility between you and that person. If that is the case, here in this video, I will explain why that happens and what to do about it. So back again, so you have this relationship. It can be anyone. It can be a friend, it can be your spouse, a family member, whoever. And you have a close relationship with them, right? So all is good here. But there's always that you can feel an obstacle in the fact that they have someone close to them, and that person is really close to them, right? It's someone who maybe is intimate to them, and you can feel that there is hostility there. You can feel hostility from their side, and you also do not like them. So there is this tension happening between you and them. So just to make it easier for me, I'll call your friend, the person close to you, your friend, your spouse, family member, whatever. I'll call them person A, and person B is the one that is attached to them and the one with whom you have that friction with. And so I'm talking about this because I see it a lot. And this is one of the biggest reasons I see that causes a lot of unsafety in relationships. Because if you are close to this person and there's always that other person there, it means that there's something there at the back of that relationship that is nagging you, that is making you feel not safe there, that is always going to bring in that feeling of wobbliness, that feeling of I'm not safe here. And you won't even, maybe sometimes you want to be even aware of it, but it's there, right? And maybe you will start chastising yourself for that relationship, for that being that way. Or maybe you'll blame them. Whatever is happening, you'll see that it will at some point escalate. It will get worse and worse. And what will happen is that it will start toxifying your relationship. It will damage the relationship that you have with that person, with person A. And not only that, at some point there's going to be a lot of things that you want to be able to tell them, you want to be able to open up, so that intimacy will start deteriorating, and at some point it will just end. There will be a moment where you will not be able to go back. And so if you want this not to happen, the first thing that you need to be aware of is that no relationship is random. If this is happening in your life, if this kind of situation is coming up, there is definitely something that relationship is telling you, right? Whether it's this one with the person A or with person B. So the first thing is, from their point of view, what is happening is that they have a part of them that they are not aware of. They haven't integrated that part. So it's a part they have separated themselves from. And so they don't even know it exists, right? And when you separate yourself from a part of you for any number of reasons, what will happen is that you can't do it without it manifesting at some point outside, because it's energy. You can't get rid of energy, so it will have to show up in a number of ways. And one way it shows up is through a relationship. And so in that moment, what person A is not aware of and hasn't integrated has manifested in person B. right? And so you need to be aware of the fact that if they are not aware of it, they can't take responsibility for it. They don't even know it's part of them. And this happens to all of us. So it's not about chastising that person, judging them. No, it's really all of us. We start by being unconscious and by going through different relationships, whether it's the relationship with a spouse, a romantic relationship, or with children, or with the house, with the bathroom, with a country, whatever. Through those relationships, we start getting to know ourselves better and better and better and better. So when this scenario comes up, it's actually a nudge to get to know yourself through that scenario, right? Through what is happening there. It's about integrating those parts, and that's when you expand more and more and more, and you get to know yourself more and more and more. So in that moment, the starting point is just the way it is. I mean, it happens to all of us, and that's the way it is. Now, the thing is, it's not whether this scenario is happening, it's what the person is going to do about it. That's the question. Because if in that moment, that person is not going to take responsibility for it and start saying, okay, this is happening. There's two people in front of me. I know them and I'm close to them. And there's animosity between them. Well, what is it that it's reflecting back to me? What is happening inside of me? Maybe there's a war happening. There's two parts in me that are battling each other. And now let me use that as a way to know myself better and to take responsibility for them, to integrate them. So what is outside suddenly, once integrated, becomes a part of me. So that's what the optimal, the best scenario would look like, right? But again, it's not always the case. I'm just saying this is how it should go on. I don't like the word should, but how if it goes this way, then we go from suffering to integration, to unconditional love, to bliss, right? And to knowing yourself, to connecting with yourself. So this is from their point of view, from that perspective. From your perspective, if you're seeing this in front of you, what is happening is that there is this relationship that you're having with this person and you like it, right? And there is something about them that you don't want to see, that's why you're seeing it separated from them in the form of another person, right? And what you don't want to see is maybe because you're afraid that if you see it in them, you won't like them. Maybe you're afraid that if you see it in them, there is going to be a separation between you two. There is going to be something that is not going to work out. Maybe it's going to bring up a sense of abandonment, a sense of rejection, the betrayal. Maybe that's the wound of betrayal that is coming up. So, and it's not that they are betraying you, that person is betraying you. It's more that is what is being reflected back, and it's up to you to integrate it and to heal that wound. Because if you don't, it will come up over and over again, right? And if it is, for example, linked with betrayal, because there's a lot of that sense of betrayal, then I mean, I don't have to tell you how painful that is, right? So the moment you go towards it, even though in that moment it will feel very painful, there is going to be a lot of shame that may come up, and there's a lot of, conflicting emotions and confusion and all that is going to come up. The moment you go towards it, that betrayal just ebbs away, that pain ebbs away, and you take it in and you become that much more solid in yourself. So what at the beginning will feel hostile, like an enemy, will become your greatest ally in the end. So this is how it looks from your perspective. Like these are the options. So what to do next? I mean, what to do concretely, right? To integrate this, because otherwise it's going to be horror to live in this kind of relationship. And many people live there because they don't think, it doesn't even cross their minds that they can actually heal it, that they can come out of it. And they stay in a nightmare. It's just a nightmare, and that's why I wanted to make this video. So, okay, so what to do? So the first thing is that the perfect solution, the perfect scenario would be that the three of you sit together and start really talking about this and integrating it and feeling into it and being open and taking those energies and letting your energy, the other person's energy, the third one, you know, like making them come together and integrating them and making it an inclusive relationship, a relationship where the word is, where there's unity, where everything unifies. And that's just the best case scenario, right? That happens. I mean, that's just amazing. Because in that moment, what you're doing is that each one is expanding through that situation. Each one is integrating a wound, because you don't know what kind of wounds they are seeing through that situation, right? So there is an incredible healing that can happen in that moment, and it's just, I mean, that's just pure bliss. And one day we'll get there. The second part is that if you see that the other person is not really willing to do anything about it, the first thing I would do if I were you is I would concentrate on the person with whom you feel that hostility, that separation. So with person B. And what I would do is I would take a trigger, the last time you are triggered. When you're triggered, usually there is this image that just comes back. There is this image, there's a memory that is there, that is stuck. And that's why it comes back to you over and over again. So take that memory, put yourself in a place where you're safe. And if you can be with another person, then that's even much better, because that will help you a lot. Their presence will help you a lot. Put yourself in a safe situation, because, you know, when you're triggered, the safer you feel, the better it is. And once you're there, let that trigger come to you, right? Let that trigger come to you, and that trigger, the way it's going to talk to you is through body sensations, through images, through symbolism. So you'll see an image of somebody else, of something else, an alligator or whatever, and you'll be like, what is that? But actually, when you feel into it, you'll know what it's telling you, because that's a different way of talking. It doesn't speak English. Those parts don't speak English. What can I say? So in that moment, what you do is that you sit down, you feel into it, and you start seeing what is happening. Where is it that trigger is happening, is manifesting? So as you feel into that, and you ground yourself in the moment, in the body, right? Because if you stay in the mind, you'll go all over the place, and that's not what we want. So you ground yourself in the body, and you start feeling it. You start feeling the sensations. And at first, what you can do to ground yourself is you can start describing them. there's constriction here, it's hot here, it's cold there, I don't like it here, you know, and you start going further on. Then you start describing that maybe it's round, maybe it's big, maybe it's blue, I don't know. And you just do that, and that will be a way for you to ground yourself in the moment, in that trigger. And from there, you'll start seeing images, you'll start understanding certain things, right? And as they come up, you can, one of the things that you can do is, if you can, you just stay there and let it come, and let it just talk, let it just be there. If that's too much for you, you can start writing. If you're someone who's a doer, you can start writing. And you can write over and over again the same thing. It doesn't matter. The whole thing is that the energy is coming out, and it comes out in a very specific way. So you may have to repeat things over and over again. And you just write it, you just do it, you can, and just let it out. As you let that part express itself, you are integrating it, you are feeling it, you are listening to it, and you are now understanding it more and more. And there's a moment where there's relief. So then you can stop it and go about your chores, do whatever you have to do. And then during the day, you can go back to it again. Because let me just explain, when you are triggered, it's because there's something coming to you and you're repelling it, you're separating yourself from it. That's why it haunts you, that's why it comes back, right? You're keeping it away and yank, it comes back. And you're keeping it away and it comes back, right? But when you consciously go towards it, that trigger, that coming up, will ebb away, because now you're going towards it, right? You're not separating yourself. So when you do it a few times a day, if you can, I mean, you can do it once a day, it doesn't really matter. It's just that if you are really in pain and suffering, you will do it a few times a day. The more you do it, the more you're showing it that it can trust you. The more you're showing it that it doesn't have to haunt you and run after you, you know, and scare the living daylights out of you, because that's what happens, right? So and so it relaxes, and now it's talking to you, it's telling you, and now you'll start seeing things, you'll start understanding why that is happening, why that person is there, what it is that that person is showing, mirroring back to you, what that person is showing you about the relationship that you're having with person A, right? What is it that you're fearing? And so this healing happens. And if you do this a couple of times, like you really give yourself a safe container, I always say a week, and then you'll see what to do. And sometimes it doesn't really take a week, but when you give that part a week, it's like, it goes, oh my God, at last I don't have to, you know, go after her or him. I don't have to run, and it relaxes, and that relaxation itself is so healing, right? And as you do that, you will see that at some point you will naturally that natural curiosity will come up, and you will want to go there because you'll want to know more. Because that, number one, you're connecting with yourself. Number two, you just understood that something that before caused so much suffering is actually so beneficial, right? When you go towards it, you'll start seeing that you have a contract, a soul contract with that person, and they're showing you something. You'll start seeing how, you'll start knowing how to keep yourself safe in that relationship with the person A and person B, right? Because one of the biggest issues we're having nowadays is that we don't feel safe in relationships. And now, because you have all these wisdoms and all this knowledge and power and all that, it's like, oh my God, bring it on. So this is what happens, right? So I would start with person B and really understand that, and you will see how that the relationship with person A becomes, you'll understand it more, you will see so much more, you will encompass so much more. Then the second part is to do the same with person A, right? To see, because there will be some resentment there, because maybe a part of you will be like, but why aren't they doing something? Why are they still with them when it's causing me stress, when it's causing me suffering? And that's a good question to ask, right? That's a question that most of us would never ask, because it's like, we should be modest, we shouldn't need anything. Well, I don't know about you, but I need safety in relationships. I mean, I have been in relationships where I didn't feel safe and I was always like this, and I do not want to live that way anymore. So this is where it takes me to the other point. I don't know which one now. I think it's point 3 or 4, where if you're doing all this work, because it takes energy, it takes investment, and you're taking responsibility for your triggers, your emotions, and everything. If that person is not doing the same thing, do you think that relationship is safe? That's a question to ask yourself, because that question will come up. And it's up to you to decide what you want to do with that. But it's a question I want to talk about, because many times here is where we overdo it. We think that we have the responsibility to do the inner work for everyone else. And then there is an imbalance that happens, because if you do that inner work, you take that responsibility, the other person doesn't, there is going to be an imbalance, and that's something that you need to take into account. And so let me just finish it here, and you will see that the relationship, that hostile relationship, will change. It will change completely, and maybe at some point that person will just not be there, or if that person is there, you'll have a completely different relationship with them. And then you'll see with person A, that's going to be a more complex, let's say. You'll see what will happen, whether you'll be able to work with them and work that in that relationship, and how it will change. So I hope I'm clear here. And if you have any questions, any comments, let me know down below. Let me know if you have been in a situation like this. And I may be doing other videos on this. I mean, if you have any questions, let me know, and maybe on that, based on that question, I'll be able to create a video. And if you want to work, if you have a situation like that and it's causing you a lot of suffering, and you want to work with me, then there's a link down below. I'll gladly help you out. And see you in my next video. Ciao, ciao.